and we are scheduled to have our Community Oversight July Executive Committee meeting. I'm going to pause for 10 seconds, and then we will call the order, the meeting order. Right. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. So it is officially now 4:02 p.m. Central, and I call this meeting to order. I see that we have all four members of the executive committee present, but let's, for the purposes of ensuring that we are present, do a quick roll call vote. Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Sweeney.
Here.
I'm here as well. So we have everyone present. Next, we will pause, and I see the order here, but tell me if I'm wrong here. Should we not first do the electronic meeting statement in my appeal decision before we do the approval of minutes? Director Fitcher?
Yeah, that's correct. That's the way it should be.
Okay, perfect. So I'll do the appeal decision, and then I will pause for Mr. Pinkley. So pursuant to the provisions of section 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, please take notice that decisions of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County Community Oversight Board may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of cert. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry or a final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met. With that, we will pause before we do the approval of minutes to give the floor to Mr. Pinkley for the electronic meeting statement.
Thank you, Chair. Since we have a full schedule, I'll keep this as short as I possibly can. So in order to meet, the governor has passed an executive order allowing us to waive the in-person quorum requirements. That order originally was put in place on March 20th. It's been extended to run through the end of August. So what we need to do is take a motion and a vote, basically stating that this meeting is necessary to conduct essential business and is being held electronically to protect the safety and welfare of Nashvillians and Davidson County.
So moved.
Thank you. Was that Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. 1 second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Any focused discussion? Not. All those in favor of the roll call vote. Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
Aye.
Mr. Martinez.
Aye.
Mr. Sweeney.
Aye.
Thank you, and I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, everyone. Next, we'll move to the approval of the minutes. The previous committee meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Anyone second?
I'll second. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Any focused discussion on that? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
Aye.
Mr. Martinez.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We are now moving to MOU proposal, and Director Fitcher, you have the floor. Thank you so much.
Hello, good afternoon. I wanted to talk a little bit about the MOU proposal. We had a meeting last week the Rules Committee had a meeting last week in regards to the MOU proposal. And we discussed an MOU with MMPD as well as an MOU with the TDI. And we came up with 2 drafts. I sent those to you for your review. There has been some edits that will have to take place on those 2 drafts, and we can talk a little bit about that. But the discussion went well, and I think that we have a final product once we make these changes. And so there will be 2 different, of course, MOUs, one for MMPD. We kind of strengthened that MOU, beefed it up, because of course, for the last 6 months, we have been able to test it and to determine whether or not it has been useful and helpful in being able to do the work that we do. And we have found that there were some issues when it pertained to access to records as well as crime scene access. And then we also wanted to add some things in there in regards to training. And we outlined in all of those steps that we made in the draft that I sent you. And so as for the changes that we would like to make, I went back over the weekend and I read over my the email that we exchanged that we had with Agent Winkler from the TBI. And I thought that it would be a good idea to add that language into the MOU with TBI in that draft. And so we have been working on that today. And it just would be what he had mentioned, that the access that he would give us to the crime scene, it was different than what we had originally wrote up in the Rules Committee, because I inadvertently forgot to share that with the Rules Committee. So we wanted to put that information in the TBI. And then once we get in the TBI MOU, and once we get that completed, of course, we will send you out a draft of that language. And so then I don't think that a vote could be taken today, unless we can take a vote once we figure out what that language is. I don't know how that operates, how we can get past that. So if you want to give me some insight into how we're going to move forward with that, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher. Let me go first to Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney, you have a question or comment?
Yes, as the chair of the Rules Committee and having had discussions with Director Fitchard over the weekend regarding the changes that she wants to make, these are changes that would grant or acknowledge a grant of even broader access rights to COB than those that are in the draft that was approved by the Rules Committee last week. I don't anticipate any issue at all with the Rules Committee, and I don't see any need for it to have to come back to the Rules Committee. I don't see any particular need for it to have to come back here to the Executive Committee. I think it would be entirely consistent with what happened in the Rules Committee for that further strengthening language to be added, and then just for the agreements to be brought before the board next week in their final form. And I don't think we need to have a motion on that, because coming out of the Rules Committee, we made a recommendation that it be presented for consideration to both the Executive Committee and the board.
Ms. Sweeney, let me be clear. So you said the recommendation when the committee met was to present it to the Executive Committee for consideration for then the full board to vote on?
And to the board. We didn't make it a two-step process.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha, thank you. Mr. Campbell-Gooch, Mr. Martinez, any questions or concerns or recommendations or anything?
So, sorry, just to be clear, would we vote to present this to the board for full approval, or the Executive Committee approves the MOU?
My understanding is a former, Dr. Fitchard, is that right? Is that your understanding? Or Mr. Sweeney for that matter?
Yes, that's correct. The first option, because there is nothing here to be approved in the sense that the final language adding even broader access hasn't been incorporated into the two agreements yet. Although Director Fitchard shared with me the language that was in Mr. Winkler's or Agent Winkler's email, kind of acknowledging that they were willing to give it even broader access. So I think that the Executive Committee can just kind of acknowledge what has happened and that there's a finalization going, and for it to be presented directly to the board with the final language.
That makes sense to me.
All right, Dr. Fitcher, anything else you would add to that?
No, that's it.
Mr. Kamaguchi, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm done. Mr. Kamaguchi is next.
Okay. Mr. Kamaguchi, any questions or thoughts on your end?
Yeah, Jamel here. I'm thinking, like, is there any way that we could, like, continuously revisit the MOU after a certain amount of time to make sure, like, that we are being proactive around any type of change and trying to hinder what we got going on? I'm just curious about how other people feel about that.
Mr. Martinez?
I think the policy committee could add to its responsibilities a review on a regular basis of the MOUs, anything that we have entered into to make sure that it's still what the MNCO needs. Just a suggestion.
Ms. Sweeney?
I was thinking, and I don't have it right here in front of me, that there was a provision in the earlier agreement that provided for periodic review. Director Fitchard or Assistant Director Clausey, is there a provision, or is that just a bad memory on my part?
There is a provision in here. Of course, this provision, this is the joint review part, and that's different than what you're referring to, Mr. Sweeney. And I don't know if we have that language in this MOU. It may have been in the very first MOU, because I don't recall it being in even the second the MOU that we actually agreed upon in January. The only thing in here is where we would review it annually, at least annually, with, I guess, members of the mayor's office and the Metro Director of Law. But if we're talking about reviewing it internally and with the board, then that provision is not in here.
I was thinking there was a provision that the two parties to the agreement would review it periodically or every year or something like that. There's nothing.
Yeah, that's in here for sure. That's section 20.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's the basis, maybe for what Mr. Campbell-Gooch thinks we should have, and we can then just trigger our own internal review in advance of that annual date. In order to figure out whether we then, within that year period, want to approach again the department for further revisions.
Okay, sure, that makes sense. And it's section 15. I'm sorry, I said 20. Well, it's not 20 sections to this MOU. It's 15 sections. So, okay.
So that would be something that, MNCO could have on their calendar. To, several months in advance of an annual anniversary, to bring everybody, to advise the board as to whether there, or executive committee, and then I guess the board, whether there are any matters that look like they need further consideration for further review.
Yeah, sure. I think that's important, because we won't know if the things that we have in here, and I think to Jamel's point, to determine whether or not they are actually working for us, and there's the full cooperation and collaboration that we're expecting with these MOUs. And so I think that will be something, Mr. Campbell-Gooch, that I will continuously talk about in our meetings, on how well the sections are working for us. So I will always keep you up to date on that. And then if there's a need, like Mr. Sweeney said, we will calendar it and then maybe meet together and talk about those issues that might need to be addressed further.
Thank you, Dr. Richard. Mr. Sweeney, any other questions or comments on your end? And Mr. Campbell, do you feel that suffices to what you were raising?
Nothing from me.
Mr. Campbell Gooch?
I was struggling to unmute. I'm not gonna lie. I guess it is. Yeah, that's pretty much getting to what I was saying. I'm just thinking that that we're going to get a new chief, and that we could find ourselves just like back in this situation again. So I'm just like at this point trying to guard against that variable here.
So, Ms. Kamaguchi, let me just take your point, because you're saying with the new chief that will lead MMPD, your fear is that that person will choose not to follow the guidelines that the MSDO COB has agreed to with MMPD? Yeah,
that's my concern, because I know that I know that we were having our issues with Chief Anderson, and I also know that it's the system that also allowed those issues to exist. So there doesn't really seem to be any conversation that I'm hearing coming from our city's leadership about actually changing the system that grooms that type of personality. So my fear is that if we don't change it, since we're not changing the system, that we literally get another personality similar to Chief Anderson's in that same position. You see what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm explaining that well.
No, I take your point, Mr. Kamaguchi. Thank you, and it's an important one to raise. And the truth is, I think this is just, it's incumbent upon us, one, to remain as active as we have been, but also this MOU is bigger than any one person, chief included, right? And so it's bigger than the COB, it's bigger than the chair of the COB. And so I take your point there. I think, I believe it is section 15. Thank you, Director Fitchard, that notes the annual meeting and gathering, but also as we choose this new chief, which we've impressed upon the mayor and others more than once, and will continue to do so, the new chief needs to be held to that standard. This MOU existed before you, and you are being placed in this role with the expectation that you'll keep it. And so if we need to do our part to that end, we certainly can and will. But I take your point, Mr. Kamaguchi, and that means that we need to be even more active as we were at the end of last year, towards the beginning of this one, and that's what we'll do. But I'm happy to, welcome other ideas here as well, if there's other things we need to put in place too, because it's just too important to your point. I absolutely agree. I don't want to leave this topic here if there's anything that we need to touch on or review, especially in light of the meeting next week. So, Director Fitchard, if you need any more direction or response or review from the executive committee, please let me know here, because you can certainly stay right here until we settle it.
Yes, I have something to add. I was trying to raise my hand, but my hand thing is messed up. But anyway, what I would say about this, to both of your points, is I think that what would be really agreeable and would be helpful on my end is, once we have this new chief in place, that my meetings would be with the chief opposed to, someone else who is a deputy chief. I think that this, in order to establish a good relationship, a good collaborative relationship, so that the chief, the MMPD, whoever that leadership is, our meetings should be together, right? It shouldn't be done through a third party. And so I would hope that whoever is the next chief, that we would be able to establish that type of relationship, to sit down as executive directors of, of agencies in public safety and really work through things that we have issues with, especially when it comes to the MOU. Having a sit down with the chief is not, something that's unique. I mean, that is what people are doing across this country, and I don't think that we should be left out of that. And I think that that's the type of relationship that we need to establish on the front end, that we should have meetings, the chief should be involved, the chief should be coming to our meetings, and that we should be able to have these one-on-one conversations, or even conversations within a collective group like the executive committee, in regards to what's happening with the MOU, right? And if the MOU, if there's some issues within the MOU, I should be able to contact the chief and say, these are the things that we put in this MOU. This are the things that were agreed upon, and we're not getting these things, and I want to know why. And so I think establishing that, early on is going to be super helpful.
And so, Dr. Fisher, thank you. I think I absolutely agree with you, but I guess perhaps since we know what's been done in the past, to Mr. Campbell-Gooch's point and to what Mr. Sweeney's raising, we've got this annual review coming up in a couple of months here. It's important to just add that in and to have it listed out that our director should not be meeting with anyone less than that of the chief. Now, if he chooses to bring a member of leadership, then I think that's something you all can decide. But I believe we shouldn't just lean on understanding there. I think it would help you to know that you are communicating with someone who has the authority to make decisions, as you do, on behalf of the COB. Does that sound fair to you, or would someone else?
Yeah, that sounds fair to me. I just, I mean, I'd like to get some feedback from others too. I don't have a problem with adding that information into number 15, that language, I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney.
Yes, I would hope that as part of the hiring process for the new chief, that she or he co-signs this new MOU in blood. And therefore, we have the commitment from before this person starts that they're aware of and they agree with and they follow the agreement. So it's not just citing to somebody else's.
And to piggyback on what Mr. Sweeney said, I think that in the MOU, as I'm looking at it in front of me, in section 15A, it says, that we should, engage in good faith discussions to resolve the dispute and may request the mayor and the Metro Director of Law to facilitate those discussions. I guess we could, if we needed to, add a bullet D or add it to this current language saying that that we should have these meetings if there's some dispute. I guess it falls under dispute resolution, joint review, and termination. So I guess we could add some extra language to that, to your point, Chair.
Well, I'd love to know how the rest of the executive committee feels here. Ms. Sweeney, feel free to continue also. But Mr. Martinez,
I'd be a little concerned about putting it there as a requirement that it's only the chief's going to meet with you. I think it's the expectation, but considering the fact that a new chief is going to be involved in a whole lot of stuff at the very beginning, if it effectively works to be talking to somebody who has the chief's ear and has the authority, I don't know that we should slow a process down by saying the meeting has to be with the chief. So I would leave that, out of the agreement, but express it during the meeting and review and hiring process, and then confirm it as part of that that's the expectation. But of course, as things go forward, we're flexible, any effective means to get things done.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Mr. Sweeney, Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
My concern is that whenever we don't couch things in legal binding agreements, there's always an adjustment. And so I think one maneuver that has been used to demobilize us is constantly sending us around to several different other people when it really only takes a directive from the chief. And we've seen how having a leadership in our mayor that has been unwilling to call the chief to the carpet has allowed for a disconnect between the people who are being policed and the people who are the ones who are in control of the policing. And so unless my friends and family can change the charter to where the people are the ones that are managing the chief of police versus the mayor, then my fear is if we don't explicitly put that our executive director needs access to the chief, when they do, then we'll always get stonewalled by demobilizing efforts. So that's my concern.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Mr. Martinez, anything to add?
Would putting that type of stipulation there put our assistant director or any of our other staff members at some type of disadvantage if our director isn't able to meet, or, am I making sense here? Like, if our assistant director is trying to make a meeting and they just point to the MOU and say, no, that's not possible because the executive director kind of, prevents us from getting things done. Do you see that situation happening?
Well, let's just be open and frank here. I've never had a meeting with the chief of police since I've had this position. And I've only met with Deputy Chief Hagar one time since I've had this position. I've talked to him on the phone once or twice. And so, I just find that to be unacceptable. And so whether or not, they can say, well, it's not in the MOU, who meets with the chief. I think that for this position, as the chief of police in this city, that this is something that the people of Nashville wanted to happen. And that is that we have this collaborative relationship that includes the chief, not just his deputy chiefs or his appointees, because I'm always available to meet with the chief or the deputy chiefs. And that should be the same type of, that should be the same way that they operate, right? And so that, of course, I agree that we're not going to be able to meet probably often when someone is first taking on such a huge responsibility. But I don't think that we should sweep it under the table either. I think that that is part of the job that they have. And part of that job is to create this relationship with the Community Oversight Board.
Mr. Swinney?
How about if we add in a provision that says something like the chief and the executive director shall meet face-to-face at least X times a year? Or to discuss the performance of the MOU or the relationship between the parties or something like that, at least X times a year.
Director Fisher or members of the board, members of the executive committee?
I don't know if I like that. I just think that, once you put in there, we meet twice a year, that means they may not meet with me more. That might be the only time we get to meet. So I guess, maybe this is something that we should, really think about a little more and spend more time thinking about it. But I would find it really offensive if we put in there that we're meeting, 2 times a year. And then that's the only time that I meet with this new chief. I mean, that to me is just not about relationship building.
Okay, Director Fisher, is this something, and let me pause here, Mr. Swinney or Mr. Campbell-Gooch, do you have anything else you might want to add? You might want to share here.
Two thoughts. I mean, there hasn't been any meeting with the chief at all. And therefore it might be good to structure something in there that's required and put, at least or minimal, something like that. That many times a year, maybe you put it in quarterly rather than putting it in 2 times a year. I would yes, it's something to think about and talk about, but if that's the only issue that's going to hold up the MOU, I'd rather kind of slice and dice it and make a decision on it now to put it in there so that we have a final draft that can go to the board next week.
Mr. Sweeney, I appreciate that. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, Dr. Fisher. Let me go first to Mr. Martinez and then Mr. Campbell. We'll come back.
I think putting in the quarterly stipulation makes sense. I think that could be enough to develop a good working relationship with the chief to establish that expectation that we have that we should be meeting with the chief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with quarterly, especially, I think that quarterly at a minimum, yeah, if you say something like that, that would be great. I could deal with that.
Mr. Campbell?
Yeah, I was also going to say, what I was going to actually say, whatever Director Fisher think is the strongest option here, is what I was going to say. Yeah. And I also wanted to mention here, like, technically our board is over MMPD, right? And so even like putting it in the MOU and requesting and putting a minimal in there is like, I guess, a good starting point, but it also seems not enough, right? I feel like our director should have a direct line to the chief at any time that they see fit. So I know that's difficult to put into words and frame like legally so we can have some accountability there. But yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Sweeney, is your hand raised there?
Yeah, just to define it a little more, although it wouldn't necessarily be enforceable, is to put in there, it's anticipated that the director and the chief will have regular and frequent contacts. The parties agree to meet at least quarterly, blah, blah, blah.
I like that language.
Now you got to figure out where to put it in. I don't think it goes in under the dispute resolution.
Yeah, that's a whole nother issue. Let me figure out. We can put this. Mm-hmm. We might have to do a new.
I think you can probably put it, in one of the early sections of the agreement or something like that. But I would leave it to you guys to figure out where to put it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll look through it.
Fantastic. Is there anything else? Well, first, let me just pause specifically to Mr. Martinez. Is there anything else you want to add, Mr. Martinez?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, fantastic. Anything else related to the MOU proposal here? It seems that we're in a good space. We're just determining the position of the language that Mr. Sweeney just shared with it. Okay. Director Fisher, anything else related to the MOU that we should discuss?
No, I think we're good.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Let's actually, before, in fact, let's go straight. Let's go in order for now. The process and protocol discussion for resolution reports. Director Fisher.
Yes. All right. Put that in front of me. So Mr. Clausey and myself and Mr. Pinkley had been working on our SOPs, in regarding to how we were going to present our resolution reports to the board. And so as of now, today, we have at least 3 that we are working towards and we want to present. Probably by the next meeting, which is in August, we would have maybe, 3 to 6 reports to present. And one of the things that before, we decided to move forward on making a presentation to the board, we wanted to revisit what we had talked about, I think it was 2 months ago, in regards to meeting with the board, maybe a task force or a promulgation committee in regards to the product that we want to, provide to the board, because there is, we created, what we have in the resolution report in the SOPs, but we just want to make certain that we don't get to the point where we have, several cases to present and then we're not able to move forward on them because maybe there are some issues within how the development of how the process is or the protocols. And so I just wanted to revisit that, see if we can maybe get your approval in having this task force or promulgation committee meeting so that we can prepare for these resolution reports to be presented to the board at our next meeting. We won't be able to do it in the month of July because according to the rules, we have to, notify and put this on our website within 10 days prior, before a meeting, and give the complainant as well as the officer at least 5 days. And so we are past that 10-day period. So we would more than likely have to put these on to the August meeting and then just kind of getting an understanding on how we would do that at a meeting. If we have 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 6 to present, would we do that at a special meeting? Would we do it all in one meeting in regards to all of our, other agenda items? And so I just thought it would be good to bring this back to the executive committee so that we can make a decision on how we move forward with presenting our resolution reports, because we have some that are ready or at least will be ready by next month.
Thank you, Director Fisher. Let me just ask before we get started here. Do we anticipate that each one will require the same amount of time to describe and go through, or do you have any way to anticipate that? I know we haven't done it yet, so I wonder if you just have an idea about that.
Well, I think the several that we have ready, one is it's lengthier. There's a lot more to it. And then, no, I can't tell you that because they all have different issues. Some of the issues are a little bit more complex than others. And it could be that one resolution report only has one issue or one alleged misconduct act, whereas another might have 6 or 7.
Right. Okay. Mr. Sweeney.
Yes. I think a task force is a great idea. I also think that it would probably be a good idea to, for the first time anything gets presented, that it be a single report and that it be probably the simplest report that you have. And that way everybody gets comfortable with what it looks like and what it feels like and all like that in advance, unless you think that, multiple ones can be handled, relatively similarly, even though one might be a little more than something else. But I certainly wouldn't recommend bringing more than 2 the first time, unless there's just some absolute reason why it has to be. But I think the task force is a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Ms. Campbell-Gooch, Mr. Martinez, anything to add to that?
I think we should really, like Director Pritchard said, think about the process so that we can make sure that we issue these resolution reports as smoothly as possible and make sure the board is included and up to speed on everything.
Agreed. Ms. Campbell-Gooch, feel free to unmute if you have anything else you want to add. I do think it's important, though. Let me just add, from the perspective of the chair here, though, I think absolutely, I agree with Mr. Sweeney here, but once there's been a decision made as it relates to, let's say, 2 versus 3, I do think it's important to then come back and Dr. Fisher, just like we work together now, whomever the chair is, work with the chair to determine, based on just the capacity of the agenda, what needs to be prioritized in such a way that is given priority, if that makes sense. Like, I wouldn't want to make a agenda that ends up being 4 hours long unnecessarily. That's okay. I absolutely agree.
Understood. And I think that once we get this process down pat, of course, like the reason why we have so many that are like pending and we're working through them is because we didn't have access to those records, right? And so now we're getting the access to the records through the agreement that we have with the district attorney's office. And that is, of course, now moving our investigations to completion, right? And so we have these that have been pending for a while, but we can now move forward on them. And so we can start with 2, but we need to move as quickly as possible to get these resolved, because we don't want to just have them lingering on for 3 or 4 more months.
I absolutely understand. Mr. Campbell-Gooch and then Mr. Martinez.
That is great news that we're able to get those going so fast, especially since they've been held up due to stonewalling. I wonder, my concern is kind of similar to what I think has already been said, that if we log jam all the reports, then we actually end up not being able to do anything else as it comes up. So my question would be, what if we called an extra full board meeting just so we can get past the backlog, so that we're not already starting off behind the cue ball already?
So
Chair, you broke up.
Share human capacity, would we be able to actually give? Yeah, can you all hear me now?
Yeah, you have to start over.
Sorry about
Yes.
that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was just, sorry about that. I was just asking, would it be fair to think that anyone's able to actually give each one the attention it deserves? That's really my question.
You mean if we start in August, or if we start I'm trying to, so
if we tried to do all of them at once.
Okay.
To not have a
understand. I don't think that we have a lot of complicated ones. We have maybe 1 or 2 that would require a lot of attention, but that's something that we need to work out through the process. And because I can't really determine what the end product looks like and what we're going to be including. But I do believe that we have maybe 1 or 2 that may be a little bit more complicated and they may need more attention. So I think that's a fair question that you asked. Yes.
Okay. I understand. Mr. Martinez and Mr. Sweeney.
To add to the conversation about timing, I think we should also consider the complainant and the officer's perspective here. I don't know, I've been waiting for a resolution, and we owe it to them, I think, to get them a resolution as fast as possible. So depending on when these complaints were received, I find it hard to make one case wait an extra month instead of taking up all 3 of the cases at the same time, especially if these cases have been under investigation for a long time.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mm-hmm.
I think that was what I know that we have a one that is a little bit more complicated, and it is, but we were able to get through it really quickly. But I think that it's fair to say that even though that may have come in, let's just say that came in May, but we had cases pending from January, February, March. I think that even though that case may be ready, we need to, if the other cases that came in prior to that, we need to start with those first. So yeah, and I say to your point, Mr. Martinez, I agree with you on that.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes. Director Fitchard, how many do you expect you will have ready by the end of August?
6 at least, at a minimum, 5 or 6.
All right, then I would suggest that we do 1 or 2 of them under, whatever final approved protocol we end up with on the August meeting, and then we have a special August meeting to consider all of the others, so that we can clean out the backlog. That way, we'll get a test run with the first couple. We'll see, that we know how to use it, how to do it, and for the board to do it. I say a second meeting in August, that might not be right, it might actually be in September. But
yeah, it would be the 1st of September.
Yeah, but before the next board meeting, you probably want to build in enough time in case there's something that comes up at the August meeting about the presentation where we decide that we want it done differently, so that the next ones come up can be adjusted in order to meet that. But that's what I would suggest. Take up 1 or 2 at the August board meeting, and then have a special board meeting before the regular scheduled September to take up all the others.
Yeah, that makes sense. We could do it like the second week of September. That would be good.
Mr. Campbell Gooch, I just want to circle back to your original point. Does that mean, that for me personally touches on what I was highlighting, but what about from your perspective as well?
Yeah, absolutely, Chair. I think it goes to where I was trying to go as well.
Martinez, are you in agreement?
Yes.
Fantastic. Director Fitchard, anything else you need from us on this?
Nope, I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. We will then move to the Immigration Policy Advisory Report update.
Hi, so this is Liz. I've been working on getting some feedback from both the MCO staff, and I touched base with Board Member Martinez about the Chief's response to our immigration report recommendations. I believe Director Fitchard has forwarded to you all some documents both Friday and today. One, my analysis of the Chief's response, and Mr. Pinkley's legal analysis about recommendation number 2 and the Chief's response to that. So I do want to open the floor first to board members for any comments or responses that they have, and also Board Member Martinez, if he wants to add anything about our conversation or lead any discussion here.
Thank you.
Sure, I can go.
Please.
We talked about issuing a written response first before. I know before we had talked about having an in-person meeting with the chief, but I think given that we have so many questions and we need detailed answers, I don't think that these questions could be answered in an in-person meeting, or it'd be unfair to impose all these questions in an in-person meeting. So to me, it makes sense to send our response with questions we hope to have answered in writing first. So Liz and the MCO did a good job in compiling those questions that we still have with the chief's response to the report. So yeah, I think that's the course that we should take. I'm happy to discuss if there's a different way that we should go about it.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mr. Campbell Gooch, Mr. Sweeney? Any objection to the approach Mr. Martinez just outlined?
Fine with me.
Mr. Campbell Gooch?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking through like community members. I'm thinking through like how to pressure for a response, how to organize around targets. Yeah, because these questions are like extremely important, and I understand what Board Member Martinez was saying, that it's unfair, but also I think it's unusual that that our chief or our policing wouldn't know the answer to those questions as well. I'm just thinking through that, Chair.
Take your point, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Martinez.
I think that's a fair point. I think the chief should be prepared in any situation to answer the questions that we have. I don't know if having an in-person meeting would, I'm wondering about the benefits of having a response in writing before we go back to negotiating, so we kind of know where they're coming from. So that way we're not accused of not knowing procedures like the chief did in his response about we were misconstruing roll call trainings as informal trainings when they in fact consider them formal trainings. So I think having these questions answered would better prepare us to be better negotiators and secure better policy wins for the community.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mr. Campbell, Mr. Sweeney.
Yeah, it's like I totally agree, especially with getting it in writing first. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm just like thinking back to the previous in writing responses that we've received, and how wild they were, and just like completely out of left field, like we was reading a completely different document than the other folks. So yeah, even I mean, Dr. Valier also has experience with the chief of police literally calling us names because of what his numbers said. So I'm just centering all of that, but I am in agreement with Board Member Martinez, though.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Sweeney.
I agree as well, but maybe somewhat as a bridge between the earlier meeting and the letter is to specifically put in there a time period for response, and I would suggest 2 weeks, 10 days, something like that.
Mr. Sweeney. Any objections to the time that Mr. Sweeney just suggested or recommended adding? From either Mr. Martinez or Mr. Campbell.
No, I think that's a good idea. And I totally agree with Mr. Campbell-Gooch's point about the responses we've received not being the best. And I don't know if that's something that we should address in our own response, especially since in this last meeting, we all took issue with the chief's tone and response. I don't know if our response right now is the right time to address that.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mr. Sweeney, is that your hand raised there?
Yeah, one suggestion. I think that the tone of our letter is right. And I think that it's right not to address the chief's tone. But I think at the same time that we send the letter, that a meeting with John Button or a call from you and Director Fitchard, Chair, to John Button to tell him how unproductive the chief's earlier response was by tone and approach, and that didn't take the bait by responding in kind, and that we would expect and appreciate the mayor's intervention with the chief so that this one is substantive and appropriate in tone and content.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Let me pause here and yield to the other members here, Mr. Campbell-Gooch and then Mr. Martinez.
Also curious about how we can use like the people, because I think like letting our folks know, letting our community members know, the people who might be concerned about these questions and also might want to know the answers. I wonder, is it a space where we can just plug them in and let them know that this is the response that we got? And the people who are supposed to be serving you, this is what we have about the issues that you're so concerned about. So I'm curious about, like, I think this is an opportunity to, like, wrangle those folks in and bring them in a little bit closer.
Mr. Martinez?
I agree with Mr. Sweeney and also with Mr. Campbell-Gooch's point just now. Perhaps there's a possibility that we could send the response to everyone who gave a comment to or participated in the public comment periods or public forums if we kept their contact information.
Mr. Martinez, did you finish there? It sounded like you got cut off a little bit.
I finished.
Okay. All right, so let me pause and just ask Dr. Fitchard, is that information that we still have on hand?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part. What information?
I was asking about the information in Mr. Martinez, correct me if I'm wrong, but the information related to those that offered a comment for the last letter in correspondence to the chief. Mr. Martinez, is that what you were speaking about? You were saying if you still had that for the policy review report?
Exactly. The organizations, the individuals who came to speak at the public forum or who gave a written comment, that we could reach out to them and give them or make them aware at least of the chief's response so that they can, put pressure in their own ways on our community leaders to make sure that these policies get changed.
Right. Yes, we have that information as far as the people who came and gave their information or gave their, or made those that sent in information. We have that. The people that showed up to the live meeting, we may not have that information because, of course, some did not give their names and follow-up information. But Liz can give us more information on that.
Yep, and actually, my apologies, Ms. Orozco. I should have came straight to you with that question for, I know, the most sufficient answer, so please.
No, that's okay. I think that that's a great idea. I think that everyone who either gave us comments or came to our public comment meetings, others that we may have contacted for information or interviews, I think those are definitely stakeholders that would be interested in being more involved and learning more about these responses that we've gotten.
Fantastic. Okay. Can I go ahead? Did I cut someone off?
Sorry, one more thing. That was me, Liz. I do have the draft letter that I drafted for Board Member Martinez and the board with me. If you want to kind of screen share, edit live, I don't know if board members prefer to send me their comments as we kind of work on the best tone to the response, or how soon we would want to request an in-person meeting with the chief regarding this information. So I'm just looking for a little more direction about whether I should pull that up for everyone to look at now, or if we want to take our time and work on this sort of through track changes over email.
Okay, thank you. Let me pause if there is some thought or suggestion here, Mr. Sweeney. Then I'll thought myself.
Yeah, one thing with what we're going to exchange with the stakeholders who have been involved or who we know would like to have this information. Do I understand correctly? We would be sharing with them both the chief's response and our follow-up, and share both of those at the same time.
Is he correct with that? Yeah.
I don't know if we need to wait until our response is finished. I guess it maybe depends on how long it takes us to finalize our response.
And I would hope we could finalize the response maybe here today.
Thank you. So is the letter one that we can put here on the screen?
Yes, let me put that up now. Can you all see this letter?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the body of the letter that I worked on with some help from the MCO staff today. This would be where we would add, I guess, any stipulation about the time in which we want a response and whether we want to include more specific information about meeting in person. My personal opinion is that I think that we should send this as soon as possible, and that if we want to share the responses with the community and stakeholders, that it would be more so the chief's response that we want, or both of them. But I don't know if we need input from the community necessarily on our letter.
Yep, I agree. Let me go to Mr. Campbell-Gooch here.
First, I want to say this is reading so kindly, and it's completely different than I would have wrote it, which I love. I just wanted to commend you on that. But also, like, as I read this, I'm thinking, I know we had talked about having a 14-day time for response. I'm thinking of shortening that window to 7 because of the urgency of the answers that we need. And then also, when I was suggesting in community members, I was thinking that we share everything that we've received, whether it be from the chief, this letter, just like fully include them and be like radically transparent in our communications with the chief.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Mr. Martinez?
Yes, I agree that we should definitely share everything with the community. I just wasn't sure on the timeline of everything that we were going to have. But yeah, I'm not sure if it makes sense to consult the community on our response before sending it, but definitely sending our response along with the chief's response, making everything public makes sense.
I agree with that as well. Mr. Sweeney, any different perspective on your end?
No different, but since I don't think that we sent our original letter that went to the chief, to the community. So the packet would include 3. The one to the chief is response to us, and then this letter.
Yes, that's my understanding as well. Mr. Cambaguchi, you still raised here? Mr. Martinez, you as well.
I needed to unraise.
No problem. I see the line here where the cursor is. I think we hope to say within X number of days, though, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. And then have we, I understand here, we have those view. Can we scroll down here? Let's just see. Can I just see the length of the recommendations here? Okay. These are no different than what we. Okay.
So these are, I think the previous document sent out Friday, these questions were in bullet point form. And so I was working today with Peter to work on making this more of a conversational response instead of just the bullet points, and adding some context to each of the responses for each recommendation.
Okay. We go to any member of the executive committee have any statements, questions here? Mr. Sweeney.
I haven't seen Todd's legal opinion. I don't anticipate that there would be a problem in this context of providing that. But I guess we should see it first.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I missed that. I believe it was sent to you all on Friday.
I don't remember seeing the legal opinion.
Yeah, let me go back. I cataloged my. Okay. I don't recall seeing it either, but that could be just with everything going on my end. So, yeah. Could you just resend that to us if you don't mind, at least so that we could see it as an executive committee, and then board members here, if you could take as quick of a turnaround as possible to review it. And review it, quite frankly, we're asking this evening so that by tomorrow morning at the very latest, after we are in agreement, this can be sent off. Does that work for everyone? Yeah. Mr. Sweeney, are you raised there?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. But yes, that works fine.
Okay. Mr. Martinez, Mr. Cambaguchi, is that feasible for you?
Yes.
Well, okay. Mr. Cambaguchi, let me know if that's not, and we can certainly circle back. Go ahead. Yep.
And there is an attachment here of an internal memo from Todd in our packet regarding analysis of policy recommendations and response. I don't know that we would want to send that full, since it deals with other issues rather than the one issue that the chief has raised it on, but I haven't looked at it substantively.
Got it. Okay. So at the top here, are we in agreement here on the 7-day response time for the window for response? Mr. Cambaguchi suggested that.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Thank you. Any additional revisions we would suggest to the language here or to the recommendations below? Anyone wants to raise it? Mr. Sweeney, I see you raised here.
Sorry, I didn't mean to, but since you asked me, in that third paragraph where it talks about the response within 7 days, maybe to add a sentence under that saying, we then would like to have the opportunity to sit down and discuss this with you further, something like that. Meet with you in person to discuss this further. Discuss implementation or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to specify, I'm not sure who would be meeting with the chief or how big of a person or virtual person meeting this would be?
Yep, I guess it's an important point. I think for this, just for certainly our director, and just simply say chair, since we're the two signing, and then we can come back to that. And I'm open to other ideas here. I just think we kind of muddy the space of the waters. And I take to the point here that, Mr. Martinez, you've led us here. So I'm certainly open to that as well. And quite frankly, let me respect Liz, you've been instrumental here too. So maybe it is a party of three. And as chair, I'll step back to allow Mr. Martinez lead us here. I just want to make sure we have the right folks in the room. Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, I don't mind if it's you, Chair, and just to simplify things right now, it's we can say with the executive director and a representative from the board.
Great. In that first line there of that same paragraph, can we add, just for the appropriate tone here, it's not this that we hope, but rather I would say that due to the seriousness, and I'm just talking this out, something to the effect of due to the seriousness of the issue at hand, we request that, because we're not simply hoping at all. Mr. Martinez, I see you raised.
I didn't unraise, sorry.
No problem, no problem. Any other members of the executive committee have any suggested revisions to the letter here at the language? Okay. It looks like we're in a full agreement here with the language, and we can. I'm assuming we can get the language from Mr. Pinkley to all of us as soon as possible. If everyone could just please turn that around as soon as possible. And in fact, I know it's 5:15 or so, and I understand people have schedules, but if you could even hope to have this reviewed by 9 o'clock tonight, that would be great. And it would position us to be ready to send this off either late tonight or early tomorrow morning. I'll make myself available for that review and signature. Does that work for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Martinez, Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
Yes.
Okay. We are in your hand here, Liz. So anything else you'd want us to review or think about?
I think that is all that we need in terms of the recommendations. If you all could review Todd's legal opinion, if we want to add any of it here or any sort of section or summary excerpt of it, I could definitely do that. I think there was a final question about whether we were going to respond to the chief's request for assistance with a separate hiring statute issue. But that's definitely something I can bring up later, or we can address separately. I think it was a little left field and may not be appropriate to respond in this particular response. But I am flagging that for the board as something that we haven't necessarily agreed to take action on.
Mr. Sweeney?
I don't have any position one way or the other on that.
No, I just saw you unmuted. I didn't know. Mr. Martinez. No, it's okay. Mr. Martinez.
He's basically asking us to channel our own advocacy efforts and to advocating on the state level for changes in policy on whether the police department can hire people who are not U.S. citizens in order to increase diversity. Maybe that comes in the form of a letter from us to legislators, or I don't know what that looks like right now, but and is it going to be something that the board has to vote on, or is it something that comes from the NCO directly?
Mr. Campbell-Gooch.
Chair, I was going to ask if we can, if you could just give like a
quick overview of what we are discussing right now? I think I might just be getting lost in the words.
No problem. So I believe and I think my understanding is that we've taken care of the big piece here, right? We're settled on the language here. The last question is about whether or not it's appropriate to raise right now. If we want to have anyone has a strong opinion one way or the other, on the separate issue at hand. So I didn't know about the details that Mr. Martinez is raising here. So Mr. Martinez, if you want to detail that out, please let me know. But it sounds as if there's just a question of whether or not we want to raise the details of the next response for everyone to have an opinion on, or if we trust those that have been working on this in more details. Is that where we are, or is it something else?
So at the end of his response, he asks us to help them increase diversity on the police force by advocating on the state level for ease of restrictions that there are on who can be a police officer, because currently only, I maybe Liz can help me here, I think only U.S. citizens are allowed to become police officers. So the chief believes that if we are able to instead ease that restriction to allow maybe permanent residents to become police officers, that there would be an increase in diversity in the police force.
Yep. So, and this sounds to me, Dr. Fitchard, I think this highlights your original point of why it's important that you and Chief Anderson or whoever's the chief have a direct line of communication, because while this is printed in a letter, this is something that two executives and directors should have a meeting of the minds and a conversation on, so that you're able to better inform the body here. Does that sound like a good path forward for you?
It does. It does. It makes sense too. Adding that to this recommendation, his recommendations just seems a little out of place, in my opinion.
And I think and perhaps this is something separate where Dr. Fitchard, you can reach out, because I've seen a lot of communication, media points where MMPD seems to want to make a stringent effort to increase their diversity pool and the representation in their officer ranks, which I think is fantastic. However, it has to go beyond just a single line in a letter. And so perhaps it's a matter of you reaching out and say, you've noted this, the board is interested in learning more and wants to be helpful. And I make myself available for a meeting to learn more about what you'd like, how you would like the board to be supportive. But I don't think that we should try to read between the lines here of what Chief Anderson was hoping to convey, or even try to devise a plan forward in something where he placed something towards the end of something that we initiated. But that is just your chair speaking. I see Mr. Campbell-Gooch here and Mr. Sweeney raised, so feel free in that order.
Yeah, I was going to answer the original question about like referencing in this letter. I would like to say, nah, like, no, I wouldn't put that in here. I mean, I think that seems like a little off-putting, very much so, and out of the blue, which is why I'm always apprehensive about communicating with him in letter, because this has happened like several times before. We've been talking about one thing, else just immediately comes out the blue that he wants, like it's a negotiation happening here. And I just wanted to put that.
Mr. Campbell, Mr. Sweeney, excuse me.
In the letter that we sent to the chief in the first place, did we make any reference to diversity, or was that one of those subjects that we had carved back and it was going to be in the follow-up recommendation that we were going to make?
That was a topic that we had reserved for a second report.
Yeah, and since that's still potentially part of the second report, I don't see any particular reason to address it here in the letter. But I do think that that's fine for that separate outreach from the director to find out more about what they're thinking about. And then we can incorporate that into our, policy review that's ongoing, another immigration issue.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Any other comments here, Mr. Martinez, Mr. Campbell-Gooch here on this topic? Mr. Campbell Gooch, I see you raised that just from your previous comment.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Anything else here related to the letter in the response? Anything else, Liz, you need from us as well?
Nope. Any feedback or comments on this letter or the responses individually here to each recommendation response, that would be great. And I appreciate everyone's help with this.
Great, thank you. And so we'll just set the time here for no later than, let's just say 9 p.m. Central tonight. And then I will work closely with Director Fitchett and other members of the staff so that we are prepared for a signature no later than tonight or tomorrow morning. Thank you, everyone. We have 2 remaining full agenda items here, and we're going to move to them expeditiously here. So the next one here, we're going to welcome Dr. Valier to comment and give us an overview of the MHRC COB collaboration. I think he should lead us through. Feel free, Dr. Valier.
All right, thank you. The researcher from the Metro Human Relations Commission, Ms. Imram, contacted me 2 weeks ago and asked to have a conversation about some of the best practices nationwide around hiring, police chief hiring processes. So I did a little bit of research into that and some reading and had a conversation with her about some of the different processes that I was able to find and she was able to find. And one of the common things that we found around gaining community input was surveys and focus groups and town hall listening sessions. The Metro Human Relations Commission is interested in leading a process on making recommendations to the mayor's office around the hiring process and potentially leading a survey of community members related to desires and planning for the new police chief. During the conversation, I offered to provide some technical assistance to them since I have experience both with policing and survey design, and help them with designing survey questions if that's the path they decide to go on, and then later on with assisting with some of the design of the sampling and what the report final version looks like or what analysis they conduct. So that is basically what the conversation we had and what so far any collaboration would look like on collaborating with Human Relations Commission around hiring a new police chief.
Thank you, Dr. Valier. Mr. Sweeney, I see you unmuted. Any comments, questions?
No, sorry.
Mr. Campbell Gooch or Mr. Martinez? Mr. Campbell Gooch?
I have 2 questions. The first being, was there any conversation about deep outreach into the community as far as getting people to do the surveys?
Yeah, any process to really collect information from the public would have to be done through some deep outreach to all segments of the community, because it's important to get community feedback from a variety of stakeholders, including Metro employees, from police officers, as well as community members. So our conversation really focused on how to different ways to reach multiple segments of the community to make sure that there was as much legitimacy as possible for the process.
Okay, thank you. And then also, when you mentioned surveys, I'm curious, have there been, as far as like the survey questions, has there been any conversations around like actual systems change?
They would be working to design some of the questions and we're planning on having more conversations if for any feedback on what that looks like. They're just beginning to figure out their scope of work of what they're planning on doing. I think any questions that do come they'll be quite open-ended in a lot of instances, and really trying to understand the perspectives of multiple groups around what does the police department look like going forward, and what kind of leader is needed for the police department in order to have a more participatory, legitimate process among many different groups of stakeholders.
Anything else, Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
No, not really. I'm just like wanting to constantly push that we actually talk about the system that allowed this type of personality to assume power and outlast 4 separate mayors. And so I just feel as though if the conversation does not allow for like systems change when polling the people, like how would they like to see this type of system literally change? I think we're missing out on the narrative and conversation that we could be having.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. And to that point, just to emphasize, it's also just an awareness of what the system might be as well. Sometimes you can't quite put words to it, but you know it when you see it or feel it. But I understand exactly what you're saying. Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, 2 questions. Is there a timeline for the hiring of a new police chief? And has MNCO been given any formal role in that process?
My answer to both of those is I don't know. And right now it seems as though the mayor's office is working on what the process looks like and who will be involved.
Director Fisher, feel free to speak here if you have anything else to add, but I can share with you, as far as I know, there's been no timeline articulated and shared with me directly. We have made it very clear, both in writing, and also I'm sure Director Fisher has said in meetings she's had with Button or others, that we have the expectation that the COB be centrally involved, and that's not an ask of a hope or a prayer. It is that it should be. And quite frankly, there is no other entity in this city I can understand that have more of a reason to be involved in this process. So the mayor's decision to do otherwise would show that he is not listening to the community. And I would hope and believe that we don't have that type of mayor. But Director Fisher, any other understanding on your side?
No, I sent Mr. Bunton an email Friday inquiring, and so I haven't heard back from him, of course, in regards to where we are with that. So I'm hoping that we'll reach out since we have meetings scheduled and have a conversation about that this week.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments here? Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Director Richard. I think that's good. It's good to be proactive right now, and let's not forget that this is happening. I don't know why it's taking so long. Yeah, I know that there's a lot going on, but there's no excuse. I think there's an infrastructure in place already to find people.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think that some of it is not just the mayor's office. I think that they have to incorporate the Civil Service Commission as well as the HR department, from my understanding. So once they get all of that together, and, I think that was the last thing I heard. And so hopefully I'll have more answers this week because I've been kind of checking in and to see what's happening with it, what's the next steps. And so once I get more information, I'll be able to advise the board, and hopefully I'll have that information before our next board meeting.
At least from my perspective, from our experience, the Metro HR expedited a lot of things for us, and we got things done pretty quickly.
We did.
So I expect the same of the selection process.
Yep. They did. They worked for us great. More than once. Mr. Campbell-Gooch, anything else, or any other members of the board here in executive committee, any statements or questions here as it relates to the collaboration? Dr. Blair, anything else you want the executive committee to consider or be aware of on this topic?
I think that's it right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Our next agenda item is the police and youth engagement proposal. Dr. Fitcher.
Yes, I wanted to, I think I brought this up, thank you. I brought this up at the last executive committee meeting, and I didn't have a whole lot of information. And so I was sent the proposal that I also emailed to you guys to review. And then because as I reviewed the proposal, I had several follow-up questions. Actually, I think I had 9 or 10 follow-up questions. And I also sent that to Ms. March, and she responded to those to give me more insight into actual things that I had questions about, right? Like I needed to know more about, for instance, how, what is the timeline to get this going, and what would she need from us directly? And where would what children or youth would be targeted for this program? And I think that Mr. Campbell Gooch had a question, like, will the officers be in full uniform? Have weapons been displayed? So I have all of that information, and I will forward it to you for your review. I think that there's a couple things going on because I wasn't really sure how the MNCO could be engaged in this. And our response to that is that they basically have done this. They've done more than 370 facilitated mediations with more than 370 juveniles in 2019. And many of those incidents involve miscommunication and misunderstanding between youth and officers, many resulting in youth arrest. And so armed with this knowledge, she said that the NCRC began to research youth programs to improve communications between the police and youth. And so they decided on emulating or mirroring a program from Denver, which is the Youth Outreach Project in Denver. And it showed promising outcomes with bridging this gap between their program was called the Kids and Cops program. So I'll send that information to you. I think that the actual information that she sent me was super helpful for me to make a determination on whether or not we want to be engaged in this at this time. I understand as well that there are a whole lot of things going on in our community as it pertains to our children, our youth, who are also trying to figure out where they're going to go to school. And so, or when they're going to go back to school and how that's going to look. So I asked her some of those questions as well, because I just needed some clarity. She said that the program may be tabled until next spring. She wasn't sure exactly of the timeline, but I will forward that to you to give you more information on it. But of course, we're also in the middle of a pandemic. So I don't really know, like I needed to know how this would look for us and what it is that the MNCO needed to do to be a part of this, or what they were expecting from us. So that's all I had to say about that. And I just wanted you guys to take a look at it, look at my questions that I sent to her, look at her responses. And then if you have any follow-up questions, or if you want to make any comments further, you can just email those to me as well.
Mr. Campbell.
I raised my hand before the invitation was extended that we just email our comments.
Any other executive committee members feels differently? Mr. Sweeney?
I was just going to request that Director Fitchard, when she sends us the additional information, if she could send us her recommendation, even if it's tentative, as far as how we should proceed rather than just the raw information.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. It's a good recommendation. Mr. Martinez?
I would add to that it's on NCRC, but there are ways that this could be done in a pandemic. Maybe we reach out to youth serving organizations who are still serving the youth despite not being able to have in-person contact. So there may be some opportunities in there to engage more community organizations to be a part of this and help us see this through.
Campbell Gooch.
I would also like to comment towards
like of the workshopping or the programming. It doesn't seem to be a lot of political education here or the history of policing here. So I wanted to suggest that. It's just like if we could get with any type of program, if we can get the history of the police and why they exist, I think that would be dope as a like neutral place to engage our young people around.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Anything else on this? Mr. Campbell-Gooch, are you still raised or on a new topic or perhaps something? No? Okay. Right. Director Fitchett, anything else you want us to consider or discuss on the engagement proposal?
Not at this time. I will send you the email with my recommendation.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. If there's nothing else here, we'll move to new business and announcements. Any member of the executive committee have new business or announcements to share? Just pause for everyone. I see Mr. Campbell-Gooch first, and then I'll come to you, Director. Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
So, ever since we released the policy reviews around the 8 can't wait, that has been proven to decrease police killings by 72%. I've just been haunted by this question of how we can expound on that, right? Like how we can actually get to a place where we can get into a situation or an environment of policing where use of force is rarely used. So I'm just like thinking around what would a policy proposal look like if we talked about like alternatives to policing that will minimize the use of force, or the question around what type of policing models reduce community reliance on policing. So I just wanted to leave that here and also like give people a heads up on like where I think I'm going with that.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Any other executive committee members have any comments, statements, reactions, or new business announcements here? Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, I'll say I agree with Mr. Campbell-Gooch, and you just saying out loud that we are advocating for something that reduces, I think it was police killings of citizens by 72%. It's kind of stark. We should be striving for something that reduces police killings by 100%.
This, Dr. Fitchett, did I see you raised on this or it's something, a new topic there? I just want to.
I'm sorry, it's a new topic.
Okay, not a problem. I just wanted to make sure I acknowledge you here. Is the board, or rather, Mr. Campbell-Gooch, you raised this, but is you're saying where you're going? So is your thought process here that you want to raise it for the board to consider, how we might want to make an even stronger statement? And working towards that once we come to the table to start to discuss what happens in the policy space?
For sure. And I think I was also putting that here so that Dr. Valier could get a heads up, because I know that study is going to be difficult and it's going to be far reaching because we have very few examples to where police killings are not around. So I know like we have to make police killings almost like null and void. We have to think about alternative systems to literally limit people's proximity to a closeness to police. So I was really putting that here. So both and what you were saying, Chair. So like we can make that statement stronger as a board, but also our data analysts and our researchers can just start brainstorming around what that would look like.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Perfect sense. Anything else here on this topic? We can certainly do just that, raise it with the larger board of consideration here. Any additional new business or announcements here? I think I saw your hand raised.
Yes, I wanted to move into our 2020 annual NACO conference. It begins on July the 20th. They moved it up really quickly because, of course, it's a virtual conference this year. And so there's going to be 32 webinars, and between July the 20th and September the 22nd, up to 4 webinars will be presented each week, and they will fall under one of the 4 tracks that are presented this year. And I'll just say those really quickly. And then innovations in work and impacting civilian oversight is one track. The next one is jail and prison oversight. The next one is oversight and the broader community, and then training. And so what I would like to make, I wanted to make certain that the board is aware of that, and that if they want to attend, the MNCO can host, the board members, because of course the cost has been greatly reduced because we're not doing it in person, and of course there's no travel involved. These would be virtual meetings, and it's a 32 session package, or a person can register for individual sessions. So I just wanted to say that. And that way, if board members are interested, then we would need to know right away to get them registered.
Thank you, Director Fisher. Could you put this in an email? To all be a lot easier probably to follow, even if there's a link perhaps to the conference, and then perhaps even stringently like pushing to us as board members that if you're interested, please give this your immediate review, and be prepared to communicate such by X date and time. And we can do just that. But thank you for raising it. I'm glad it will be more accessible even to a larger audience. That's great.
Yes, it's good. It's gonna. I think, and the topics are really fantastic. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it's great. Any additional new business or comments here? Okay. Okay. If not, then I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. In 1 second.
Second.
Said Mr. Campbell-Gooch. Thank you. Any focused discussion? I'm sorry, was that Mr. Campbell-Gooch? Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If there's no focused discussion, we'll take a roll call vote on this. Mr. Campbell-Gooch?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Sweeney?
Aye.
Thank you. I vote aye as well. Meeting is adjourned at 5:44 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.